are here at Road America for the XPEL Grand Prix. Hello everyone and welcome to the broadcast. FanCam is back and in force. 4 different cameras which you will be able to watch the cars go around the circuit with timing screens alongside. It is INDYCAR Radio taking you through this broadcast. Let's go and join them.
America, first practice session of the weekend. Mark James and Davey Hamilton. And Davey already making headlines. Massive driver change announced just a few moments ago. Nolan Siegel will be in the 78 machine for Augustin Canapino this weekend.
Yeah, by the way, that happened about 20 minutes ago during Indy next practice. Nolan Siegel was in his car. All of a sudden, he pulled in. Michael Young noticed it. He hopped out of the car. He went over to the Uncos Hollinger pit and started getting fitted in that car midway through the practice. So happened very rapidly, Mark. We usually come on air, want to talk how beautiful it is and what this track and how smooth but the headlines is definitely that driver change.
Well, lots to unpack, and Michael Young has certainly been doing plenty of digging in the paddock. Michael, what's the latest?
Well, I spoke with Dave O'Neill, the team principal for Juncos Hollinger Racing, and I asked basically what happened, and he said this all transpired in the last hour and a half, that Augustin Canapino, with the situation that happened in Detroit and the threats that had happened on X, he just wasn't in a good state, a good mental place, and they thought they owed a lot to not only the competitors out here, but to this team, and they decided for his sake, for Augustin's sake, that they would pull him out of the car. This is, from what I'm understanding, just a one-race situation for here at Road America. He'll be back in the car, potentially at Laguna Seca. Their hope is to have him back in the car, but Nolan Siegel was there. He grabbed his seat from Dale Coyne Racing, took it down to Juncos Hollinger. They got him fitted in the car. They're still waiting on pit lane for the number 78 to make it here. But again, this is more for Augustin Canapino and his mental health and getting him in the right place than anything else. And Nolan Siegel was here. He had a seat and was ready to go. He will run in the Indy next race, and Juncos Hollinger will do everything they can to help him make that transition from the Indy next car with HMD back over to Juncos Hollinger Racing. But a rapid chain of events just happening in the last half hour or so.
And again, as Michael alluded to, in the announcement that was made, the formal announcement that was issued, the growth of online abuse and harassment resulting from the events of this week has led to a very difficult experience for Augustin, the team, and the entire IndyCar fan base. The safety of Augustin and the competitors has to be considered first and foremost, as Michael said. Abuse, hatred, and harassment in any form is detriment to the sport. We must prioritize the mental and physical well-being of both our drivers and our competition. And so because of that fact, Davey, that's why Nolan Siegel gets the opportunity to do the double this weekend. The bottom line is this, and I think you and Nick alluded to this. I mean, freedom of expression does not mean freedom from consequences.
Yeah, that's right. And we all want it. We know social media has its good and has its bad. In this case, very bad. I mean, with death threats. I mean, you look at the incident that happened in Detroit. It wasn't intentional. It was a bad choice. Porcher got in the corner just a little bit too hard. They both continued on. Didn't even cause a yellow flag. It bumped him out of the way, kept putting him back a couple spots, and to go that deep into it with death threats, it's uncalled for. Just purely uncalled for. It's unfortunate. Canapino's been doing such a great job. Porcher, unfortunate for him. He doesn't need to be ridiculed like that either. He's been doing a great job as well. New to our series. 2 drivers, up-and-comers, that the controversies around that shouldn't be.
And I know that there's a test coming up at Milwaukee next week, which everybody is excited about, but I also think that once that test subsides, and all teams have been invited to that, by the way, I think everyone is ready to hit the reset button and take a break.
Yeah, I think so, and it's been very busy. The teams have been busy, no time off, going from, the Indianapolis 500, the 2.5-mile super fast oval, obviously a fantastic race this year.
Well, let's go back to Barber at the end of April, and then the road course.
And then so they have. You're right, Barber road course, then the Indy to get ready for that road course, then turn right into the Indy practice for the Indy 500, qualifying the race, and then to a 1.7 or 1.6 mile street course in Detroit that created a lot of havoc, and now here this 4-mile permanent road course.
Well, it's a beautiful facility for sure, and we'll talk more about the events of this weekend after we do some recapping the events of last weekend. And this what we opened the show with was a bit of the fallout, but I'll tell you, there were a lot of drivers who made a lot of mistakes last Sunday.
Yeah, there really was, and there were circumstances that just the smallest. That course is so tight. The small mistakes, just like we talked about with Porcher and Augustine, didn't cause yellow, but it was a mistake he made, got in a little bit too hard, and really the only passing zone on that track. But rain came, people put rain tires on, some didn't. The green came out, those who didn't, some of them spun out, caused another yellow. The pile-ups were hard to get to because it's a street course, so safety crews takes a little extra time. And it just happened. It just was unfortunate. It wasn't just a few drivers maybe going a little bit too hard and just turned into a lot of yellow flags. But it could have been a straight green flag race as well.
A lot of criticisms about the racetrack, and a couple of people I talked to in the paddock said, I think he blamed the racetrack because we had the same number of cautions there that we had at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 500.
Yeah, right.
So we're not blaming that racetrack for that. He said it falls on the drivers, pure and
yeah,
simple.
They've done a great job on improving that track. Second year that we've been there, they've made some, Bud Decker, he's been on there with us. They made some great improvements on that track. It wasn't the track. You blame that. It's a difficult track. It's narrow. There's no question about it. But if you recall, a majority of the incidents were going into the passing zone in turn 3. They repaved it. They made it good there. People just, trying to get too much out of their car in that area means that is the only passing zone or the best passing zone on the track.
It created almost a stadium feel with the backdrop there of the Renaissance Center and the GM headquarters and the way it's all laid out. I think the place got a really cool vibe to it.
And it does. It has a great vibe to it. A lot of energy. That event's there to stay. They're going to continue making improvements just like they did every year at Belle Isle. It's not the track's fault. Like I said, for example, let's go early on with our third place runner that at the time, he slides, goes into turn 1 and gets in the wall, and that was who was one of the Penske cars.
That's right. Yep.
McLaughlin. Yeah, It was McLaughlin. I didn't know it's Power McLaughlin. Went down. And that caused the yellow. I mean, just some small mistakes here and there. We got a little mix-up down with Colton Herta in the wet. Went straight off in turn 5. A lot of just bumps and bangs down in turn 3. So those, like I say, it could have been a situation where it went straight green just as easy as had that many yellows.
Well, Scott Dixon likes that track.
Yeah, he does pretty good. Yeah, he did good.
You won't convince him it needs to change.
Yeah, the strategy played out in his hands, and what a masterful job he did at saving fuel, like he knows how to do. That he has all those wins for a reason, because he's fast. He knows when to be fast. His team's good. They do good strategies. That puts them, they get a lot of victories.
Taking a look at the 66 car, Helio Castroneves did it again this weekend after in the car, and it was announced also that David Malukas will be in that car.
Another surprise, but the way we understood it last week when they made the announcement about Helio going in the car for a couple races, that Bloomquist is just, hey, he's part of the team. We love him. We just need to see if Helio can get in there and get some points, get us in that leader circle. And then this week it comes out that yesterday, that David Malukas will run the rest of the season in that 66 car, and this will be Helio's last time in that car. So, a lot of changes. We talked about last week Mark's silly season, and we thought maybe it's kind of because it started the first race of the year.
Year-round now.
Yeah, it's year-round, and it's happened now, and that. The Nolan thing happened an hour ago. I mean, it was just like he's in the car when they told him. So, pretty wild.
So, Davey, let's talk about this place. Over 4 miles in length. We had a chance and opportunity to go out on the golf cart and drive around it. And I'm telling you, here it is Friday afternoon. And let's face it, Friday afternoons typically sometimes aren't of the 3 days aren't the busiest days. But I'm telling you, this place holds a special place in the hearts of a lot of race fans, because there have been a ton of people here all day long.
It's unbelievable when I drive around this facility. By the way, as you said, 4-mile facility with elevation changes. It's brand new pavement, but how many different areas of this racetrack there are, and how many campers are all over the place, inside the track, outside the track. So many people. The fans have just, they make it a long weekend here, and there's no question about it. Great place to be. A little chilly, a little windy today at normal, but still just a great place to have a race.
Another update from Pit Road with Michael Young.
Well, Nolan Siegel is buckled in, and the Juncos Hollinger team is starting to wheel him out onto pit lane. It was a lot of work to get that seat not only put in, but to get the head and neck restraint put in, and they have Nolan Siegel ready to go. A breaking story here at Road America. Nolan Siegel filling in for the mentally distraught Augustine Canapino. The car is being rolled out on the pit lane now. We'll expect to see him momentarily.
Well, the interesting thing, and the reason there's such a sense of urgency, Davey, is because, set of tires and extra time, but given to those rookies for the practice session.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something that I don't know if he'll have that opportunity, being it's happened so late, more than likely. But with, this long racetrack, 4-mile course, and when you got 75 minutes to get a practice session, these laps are long. It takes a long time to get around them. We see that Uncos Hollinger team car getting pulled out right now, that 78 car. So, it's going to take him a minute just kind of get used to it, the team to get used to him, make sure radios work right, they can hear him.
Well, Michael alluded to it because not only, do they have to get his seat in there and get him fitted, but, as you mentioned, spacers in the steering the location of the pedals and everything.
Yeah, and by the way, he's only been in an IndyCar a couple times and not this one. I guess this would be his fourth time, I want to say, that he's drove, but first time in this car. Steering wheel knobs and controls may be different on this one compared to the Dale Coyne car. Just a lot of things that they got to learn on each other. And
we were telling you moments ago about David Malukas, and his plans are pretty well firmed up for the rest of the year, Michael Young.
Yeah, it was an interesting 2024 for you, David Malukas. And with this breaking story right now, we've all kind of forgotten about your great news. Interesting with your hand. I saw it in St. Petersburg, and your wrist, and you're all healed up, ready to go. The issue with Arrow McLaren, you didn't have a ride, and then it was just announced earlier this morning that you'll be completing the rest of the 2024 season in the 66 for Meyershank Racing.
I know, what a great opportunity. Thank you to everybody from MSR. It all came together so quickly, and I have a few memories on the hand for sure. These cars are going to stay, and I know what not to do anymore, but I'm just happy to be back, man. The way everything happens, we had some highs, and then we went to a real low, and now we're back to being on top of the world.
There's a lot of chatter that happens when someone gets injured, and the concern of your wrist and potential long-term damage to that wrist. Is it 100%? And you have obviously been cleared, but how do you feel going to be out and running at Laguna Seca, which is very physical with the corkscrew and everything there? Do you feel like physically you're ready to go?
Yeah, we're making sure that we will be once we get there. Of course, we're choosing Laguna. It's repaved. You got the corkscrew. It's definitely going to be a challenge. But if we can do that, we can definitely do the rest of the season. So, and we're very confident. Talk with all the doctors from PT to the trainer, and everybody's on my side, and we got this.
Let's talk the timetable. When did this discussion begin, and when did you finally decide, yes, this is where we're going to go, and this is going to be exactly what we need?
The talks started soon after the 500, and from there, it was just a few days from first initial talks to pen to paper. It all happened very quick, it was honestly a stressful few days on trying to make decisions on what to do and quickly setting these appointments with the doctors. So it all went well, though.
Easily, this is probably the opportunity you were looking for. Long term, are you already thinking down those roads, or it's just let's get through this year and these first couple of races?
At least initially, for now, at least these first few months, let's just focusing on making sure this hand is ready for Laguna and these first few races, and then after that, we'll start looking ahead.
We're so looking forward to seeing you back in the cockpit of a car. Congratulations. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, man. I'm glad to be back. I love IndyCar, man.
That's David Malukas.
Yeah, David Malukas, a lot of fans out there, and we were talking about it on the way in this morning, Davey. There's a lot of irony in the fact that he is now teaming with Felix Rosenqvist, who was the guy that he replaced at Arrow McLaren initially.
And then they get a drive for Arrow McLaren at all because of the hand injury. Yeah, pretty wild that they'll be teammates right now. And you feel for Bloomquist. It just didn't go right his way, but there's the Coyne Malukas shows a lot of promise. You just didn't know if he's ever going to get back in IndyCar after signing with the McLaren on, on top of the world. And then I feel for him. That had to be pretty depressing area after he was on a mountain bike when he broke his hand. He knows not to do that anymore.
Right.
And focus on his sport. And there's ways to get in shape, and there's fun ways to get in shape, but try not to get hurt doing it.
Christian Rasmussen with a big off, and probably won't be the last time we'll see that between 13 and 14.
Yeah, we've seen Rasmussen go down and turn 14. Just the back end came around fast. The right-hander coming on this long straightaway just turned it around, went through the gravel trap, and also in turn 13 we had Lundgaard go off and spin around, bouncing around a little bit. Did a 360, came back on track. He's off and going again too. So only 7 cars have been on track. We've already had 2 cars off.
Trim this car out a little bit as opposed to the wing configuration that we had last week in Detroit.
Oh, well, no question. In Detroit, you're putting a lot of downforce in trying to get around that technical track, that short technical track. Put as much downforce in as you can here. not so much. You want that car in such long straightaways. If you put too much downforce in it, that creates drag, and you could be a sit and duck down these long straightaways. So completely different setup this weekend compared to last year.
There is no question that the troublesome spot here, they're everywhere, quite frankly, on a track this big. But the one that always seems to rear its ugly head each and every time we come here is turn number 5, coming down the hill, getting ready to go back up.
Yeah, you know, it's the slowest corner on the racetrack, by the way. Heavy braking into turn 5. It gets really narrow down to turn 5. Seems to be a great passing zone. I should say seems to be. It is a great passing zone, but we do see a lot of incidents down there. We see a lot of overtaking and a lot of rubbing in that area as well. Good place to watch for sure.
Have you been in the 2-seater on this track yet?
Yeah, just a couple times. Not this weekend. I have not been out this weekend yet, but just but plenty of laps around.
And talked to a few folks about the repave and what they expected to do, and they think that it's going to obviously create an increase in speeds, but they think the grip level's going to come up pretty good over the course of the weekend.
Last year the track was so smooth and so nice and just a pleasure to drive on. And when you pave a 4-mile track, you know, obviously we talked about the expense of that and just what they had to incur to do that. So hats off to this facility for doing that. But not that, I mean, to have it that smooth was unbelievable. I mean, it's absolutely like a ice skating rink, smooth as could be. No errors in the asphalt. Grip level went up extremely high. Now it's going to wear down a little bit every year, but last year it had high grip. I expect to see really high grip this year and super fast speeds.
So Linus Lundqvist among those caught speeding on pit road, and again they keep an eye on that during the practice sessions as well, and so he'll have to serve a drive-through. So we've got Lundgaard, VK, Portiera, Fittipaldi, Ferrucci. Then Rob, Luca Kyoto is back in the car this weekend for Dale Coyne.
Yeah. You know what? That's another one. Kyoto, he's done a great job as well. A lot of musical chairs. I like to see somebody. First of all, let me back up. I love seeing Dale Coyne giving so many drivers opportunity. I mean, that's kind of his MO. He's great at doing that. It's really an opportunity of a lifetime for a lot of these drivers. But I'd like to see maybe somebody more steady in at least one of the cars for Dale, just to grow the team, get some good information, get the cars fast where they know they could be. And so anyways, what a great opportunity for all these drivers, and especially in this week it's Kyoto.
Well, consistency is not only important for the drivers, but it's just as important for the crew as well.
Oh, yeah, no, just to get that confidence, you just get the, obviously you have to have good communication with the team. You have to know what they are like. They have to know what you expect, get used to your engineer. Coming in on the one-off is very, very difficult.
Well, we're happy to have with us a guest in the booth. One of our favorite organizations is Racing for Kids. Been doing such great work for so very many years. And our good friend Pat Ride, the Executive Director, CEO, Racing for Kids. Pat, welcome to Elkhart Lake.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, happy. And I know you've been at this a long time, and congratulations on it. 35 years Racing for Kids, and you had a really, really special and beneficial welcome to Elkhart Lake event last night.
Well, we sure did. The annual welcome party at Elkhart Lake. It's quite a welcome. It was great. We had a lot of fans there. Laura Cooper Arnold, who's been in business a long time, organized a great event. A lot of her friends helped out. We had fundraisers, but probably the best part was the celebrity bartending. And that really got as competitive as it has on the track on some days. And they raised over $9,000 in a couple of hours, making drinks for the folks, and their tips were many and beneficial, and we're all happy about it.
Who were some of the celebrities that were plying their trade behind the bar last night?
Well, two of the drivers are Santino Ferrucci and my good friend Rinus VK. They did a great job. They had the crowds cheering for them, and a lot of other celebrities too. Meyer Shank, and they did it very, very well in their stint. And it was a great time, a lot of fun, and raised a lot of money for kids.
Well, I know that Meyer Shank spent all week kind of, encouraging people to come out and get involved in that. And again, go back over the 35 years, and it'd be impossible to list all of the drivers that have helped you with Racing for Kids.
You're right, and we go as far back as AJ Foyt. Welcoming us to his motorhome. We have hospital visits wherever we race. We bring the drivers to see sick kids, but also at a number of venues, and Road America is one of them. We work with the promoter, and we bring kids from children's hospitals or children's organizations to the track. Today we had a group of 30 from the Sheboygan Falls Boys and Girls Club, and we just finished a great day with them. And we take them, show them the transporters, take them around the track, have a nice buffet, and guest speakers often. And as far as the number of drivers participating, I was thinking about it the other day. This year was kind of the exception, but any given year at the Indy 500, we have as many as 30 of the drivers on the starting grid are part of the Racing for Kids team.
Now, before much longer, you're going to be closing in on a pretty impressive record. We have an issue in turn number 14, Davey, the 77 of Romain Grosjean.
Romain Grosjean, man, that team, we're talking about the Uncos Ollinger race team. A lot of action happening down there, and last thing they need is changing things or fixing cars or trying to get a new driver in the car as of about an hour ago. And unfortunately, Grosjean goes off in turn 14 fairly hard into that tire barrier. There's going to be some damage sustained, a lot of gravel. Going to have to throw the red flag, get him towed out of there. It's going to take just a minute with just about 57 minutes left in this practice. And
so will allow us to continue to visit with Pat Riding, Executive Director, CEO of Racing for Kids. We were touching on the number of hospital visits. Boy, you know, you're closing in on 800 hospital visits.
You're right. It's amazing. A lot of them are repeat, but we've taken this program over the years for every IndyCar race. We have the United States, Canada, Mexico, Australia, Japan, and Brazil. And we have touched the lives of roughly 45,000 children in all those countries. And, you know, it's interesting because as you gentlemen know better than anybody, IndyCar drivers are a special sort of sport, athlete. They understand the relationship with the success and also involvement with the community. And so they are more than willing to make these visits, and they light up the room and when they do. And it's great to see it globally. And then one of the things that struck me years ago when Roger Yasukawa was making a visit in Tokyo at Doi Memorial Hospital is the look on a concerned parent's face has no language to it. And I remember seeing a young mother in the playroom at Doi Hospital, and I could see on her face the same look I've seen in California, Detroit, or at the Indy 500. And when you see that, and you see how the drivers can take their minds of these children off their maladies and give them put a smile on their face, and also see their parents happy, sometimes telling us this is the first time my child smiled in 2 weeks. In some cases, the drivers have gotten kids to eat who hadn't eaten in a week. So when you see all of that, you just understand the drivers are doing what are necessary, and they do a great job with the kids.
Plenty to be proud of, but how about in 2017 when you started the Racing for Kids Courageous Kid Award?
Yes, these are children we identify who have an exceptionally difficult time in life, and they've showed courage and resolution. In fact, one of the original Courageous Kids drivers, a young kid who was 11 years old at the time, had 34 heart procedures since he was born. He was born with half a heart, but the doctors had worked with him, and he was doing fine. And then a couple of years ago, they said, he's gotten older, and they said, Aiden LaForest is his name. Yes, Aiden, here's the situation. We've done all we can. You're going to need a new heart. And so the process started, and lo and behold, earlier this year, Aiden is now 19. They found the perfect match, and he was at the Detroit Grand Prix with us 3 months after having open heart surgery. And the first time I saw him, I shook his hand. He took my hand and put it right over his left chest. He said, "Feel it? That's my new heart."
Since 1989, more than $8 million raised. That's incredible.
Yes, and this isn't just, hey, I'm donating to kids. No, we find out if there's a definite need that the hospital has, and if they do, we identify it. Like in Children's Hospital in Michigan, we funded portable heart monitors, so kids who've had open heart surgery can go home early, but the doctors have monitored them, so they're totally in control of what's going on with them 24/7, and that speeds up the process of healing, too. Otherwise, if the hospital hasn't identified a need for it, we see it goes into playroom equipment or playroom development, because hospitals have a line item in their budget to build the playroom, but outside funding have to equip it.
So lastly, most importantly, I know we have a lot of folks listen to us, the corporate world, businesses, and also individuals. How can they support Racing for Kids?
Several ways. RacingForKids.org is our website, and we're always interested in people who want to get involved. Also, they can identify needs maybe in their local children's hospital and help us fund it. And again, we're very transparent. I remember talking to the development director of one of our donors, and she said to me, I don't see a lot of salaries on your budget. And I said, that's because there isn't. So we're very transparent. Anybody can make a hospital visit with us, but when you see the money that you pay, you know exactly how it's spent, and that helps us and it helps the kids.
I've enjoyed watching your organization and all that you've done for kids, and continue to do great work, and the door's always open for you. Anything we can help you with, we'd be happy to do it.
Well, you guys have been over the years, and we sure appreciate it.
Thank you. Our pleasure. That's Pat Wright, Executive Director, CEO, Racing for Kids, 35th anniversary. You've been involved in that organization for a long time.
A long time, man. I mean, when I first came into the sport, he was doing it, and he, just hats off to him and the entire staff, just keeping it going and raising that much money, and how important it is. Been to the children's hospitals. It's a gut wrencher sometimes. These kids, what they have to fight through. Some people just don't understand, but when you go see him firsthand, and you hear the great stories like him, the gentleman having a new heart at 19 years old. That's just, there's great endings as well. So anybody that could help, we would appreciate it. They're easy to find with Racing for Kids, and definitely try to pitch into that.
Red flag scenario continues. He buried into that tire barrier pretty deep.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, it was deep. It was very, very deep. Matter of fact, it wiped that car out pretty good. We see the left front suspension completely gone on that car. The wheels hanging down. So there's a lot of work to fix on that car. He hit it really hard. There's no such thing as an easy hit, no matter if it's tires or a safer barrier, or just a concrete wall. It hit hard, and there's a lot of work to do. And you seen Grosjean get out of that car pretty dejected, and rightfully so. Just not sure what's going on over there. Obviously he just had Canapino, the teammate, seems to be having more speed at majority of the races. We always, from the time that Grosjean's came in the series, we're going, well, he's going to win. I mean, he's fast right off the bat. I mean, he's been in so many positions to win. It just hasn't went his way. And unfortunately, we just, we've seen a replay out of this. Palou, his first practice session last year, went off in the exact same corner, got into the barrier, tore the car up. They go fix it. He ends up winning the race. So that doesn't mean he's out for the weekend. Just obviously a start that he didn't want to have.
Well, taking a look at the championship chase, Davey, it always resumes. The focus is back upon it after we leave the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and buoyed by his win in Detroit. Scott Dixon sits atop the standings. Got about an 18-point lead over Alex Palou. Will Power with 185 points is in third. Pato awarded Alexander Rossi the top five, and Rossi about 66 points back.
So you look at a couple things. We're not surprised at all to see Dixon in front, and really, we know Rossi. We know what he could do, but it's a little surprising to see him in fifth. He's had a couple, several bad years. It's been quite a while since he's really been a contender for the championship. He's put himself back in the position to be a contender for that championship in that Aero McLaren car. So, he's on fire. He's hungry for it. You got a couple other ones. The points, unbelievable how they switched around last week from Newgarden to McLaughlin. All of a sudden, because they started off with zero a couple races into it because of the issue they had with the push to pass, but they found themselves back in the championship game. All of a sudden, they're in it, they're not in it. Joseph goes, that, if you look at Power, let's look at Power's graph from where he won that race. He was towards the front, in the back, towards the front, in the back, ends up, I think, sixth. So pretty crazy weekend last week.
Newgarden's almost 100 points back, but let's not forget we've got a couple of doubleheader weekends and ovals coming up.
And quite a few ovals, by the way, this year. So,
he can close the gap quickly for sure. But here's the problem. We talked about this before. The last guy, and don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that I'm saying take it to the bank by any stretch, but the reality of it is, out of all of the drivers in this series, who is the one that you least want to be trying to chase down for a championship in terms of his podium finishes and his top fives? I mean, who's the guy who's prone to the fewest mistakes? And that's the guy leading.
That's the guy leading it, Scott Dixon. You just never can count him out. Been doing this so long. I think he was 8 away from matching AJ Foyt for all-time wins. Just unbelievable.
Michael Young.
Ricardo Juncos is very animated on the pit box, obviously with the 77 going off and trying to get a rapport built with Nolan Siegel, who sits on pit lane. And we talk about the various things that have to happen to a car when one of the team grabs some neon yellow vinyl to put on the rear attenuator for other drivers to understand that there is a rookie in front of them. So still buttoning up various things on this car as Nolan Siegel, as you heard behind me, just peeling out back to practice.
Yeah, interesting point. And that kind of let those drivers know that, hey, here's the deal. Here's what's going on. So Christian Lundgaard with about 48 minutes remaining in this session. Ferrucci, VK, Porcher, and Fittipaldi, the top five. Then Rob Simpson, Kyoto, Ray Hall, Rasmussen, and Linus Lundqvist. 11 cars have gone out. And once we get to that 45-minute mark of this practice session, Davey, that's when we think things will start to pick up. A few more cars will start to take to the track.
We see a lot of cars going right now. Matter of fact, just see Colton Herta, by the way, pit number 1 because he set it on the pole at Detroit. By the way, don't forget how fast he is here. He's been in victory lanes, been on poles here. So, and the number 1 pit stop made a huge mistake last week and got into the wall in Detroit. But he's back for redemption. You know, he's probably more focused than ever not to make mistakes, make sure that car's fast, and you know he's good here. So that's going to be exciting to watch him. But this is a fun place. All the cars are pretty much going to go out right now and start getting laps in. We see Ericsson, who finished 2nd last week and finally had a good run. He wanted to start the season over. He said, let's do a reset for Detroit. He finished 2nd there. We'll see if he can continue on to a good finish.
Nice job for sure. And, you know, that really was a big boost to that race team, Davey, because they were in danger of being on the outside looking in when it comes to that leader circle money. And I think we've reached to the point where we're seeing some of the decisions that are made, you know, basically are tied to race teams. I mean, Elio Castroneves said that in Detroit. That's one of the reasons why they're doing what they're doing with the 66 car. So as of right now, the 22nd car is the Fittipaldi of Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing. He's in the 22nd position. The 18 of Dale Coyne is 23rd. The 41 of A.J. Foyt is 24th. The Meyershank 66 is 25th. The 26th is Ed Carpenter's number 20 with Rasmussen. And then this 51 machine of Dale Coyne is currently 27th. Those are entrant points. That's the car. That's the leader circle.
Yeah, and here's the tough part with that. Where you just say, how about Dale Coyne? He needs to be in that leader circle program. I mean, that team's obviously he does a lot of that funding by himself. There's some money comes in, but not enough to keep. For example, he's got drivers all over the place coming in. He needs, and he has both cars out on the outside looking in.
So, engine manufacturer update. It was a good weekend in the land of Chevrolet for the good folks at Honda, and they now lead 482 to 466 in that battle.
Well, that's gone back and forth several times since this season started. A pretty great battle, and it's going to continue. But, you know, Chevrolet says, hey, this is the next most important race to us in the Indy 500. Our office looks over this race course. You race around the GM headquarters, and they wanted results there. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. It was 4 of the top 5. And by the way, when I say 4 of the top 5, first, second, third, fourth Hondas. The first Chevrolet was 5th. And so Honda loved it, but Chevrolet wasn't too excited coming out.
Well, with 45 minutes remaining in this session now, let's talk a little bit about this racetrack. I mean, you crest the hill at the start-finish line, you get into the flag stand, and then you start the downhill run into turn number 1. And there's a little kink between 1 and 3. It's called turn number 2, but it's not much of a turn. But 3 can be very unforgiving as well.
Yeah, so turn 1, we'll start there, Mark. I mean, really fast right-hander off this long straightaway, and we've seen a lot of action, a lot of passing zone, passing zone down there. Also, we got to watch when it's race time. Cars merging out of pit lane onto the racetrack going down to turn 1 makes it a lot of fun. Turn 2, like I said, I've been around this place many times. I never turned to turn 2. You just go straight there. But there it is. It's called a turn down into that turn 3, which we see another area that you want to carry along a lot of speed on that downhill. Easy to make mistakes there as well, sliding off in that area. But then we go down off of turn 3, the next longest straightaway. Right in the middle of it is a straightaway, but it saes turn 4. That's another one I've never turned at. But it is what it is. Going down in the tightest, slowest part of the race course, Mark. Turn 5, we see a lot of passing under braking down there. Seen a lot of mayhem down there. Cars hanging on fences a few years ago, if you recall, in Indy next, and a lot of carnage in that area. Going up that back uphill into turn 6, even though it's a short little straightaway, when you mess up in turn 5, it allows you to get past or past somebody going up into turn 6. Turn 7, a fast right-hander going down into turn 8, which is another left-hander going into the really super fast carousel, and I mean fast. You try to get to their wide open, not easy to do. Coming on to the next long straightaway with a kink in turn 11, which try to get to their wide open too, Mark, and you can most of the time, but you do need to lift, when these tires start wearing out. Down into Canada corner, turn 12. Another right-hander, good passing zone. But I have to say, if you're a spectator and you haven't been here before, you need to go stand in turn 13 and watch them through this little right-hander into a left-hander in turn 13. The speed that you see out of these cars, pretty amazing through there. Just how these cars grip that is unbelievable, and it's a place you have to go watch and see it live. And then going into that right-hander turn 14 where Grosjean just went off into the tire barrier onto this long front straightaway.
Some might think that normally that front straightaway is the fastest portion of the race course, but the fact that you're going uphill here, does that kind of reduce that speed a little bit?
Yeah, it does a little bit, because you are going uphill. You cannot, when you're going up the straight, you can't see the flag stand. I mean, it's a good hill that you're going up, and you can't see over that rise until just right at the last second. Good to see Grosjean. Good to see him on camera. He's okay. Just got out of the medical trailer and back to his pit, so that's good news that he's fine. So, but yeah, you're right. That it's pretty wild going up that straightaway, not seeing being able to see the top of it until you actually get past that start-finish line.
So Lundgaard has gone up to P1. As again, 23 of the 27 cars now have turned laps. Lundgaard, Ferrucci, VK, Portier, and Rossi the top 5. Fittipaldi, Rahal, Rosenqvist, Rasmussen, and Ericsson the top 10. Simpson, Robb, Castro-Evans, O'Ward, and McLaughlin through 15th. Luca Giotto, Harvey, Kirkwood, Siegel, Palou, Lundqvist, and again, we still got cars working up to speed, including Will Power and Marcus Armstrong. Had a few minutes to visit with Wyatt Harvey, who's with Ed Carpenter Racing, talking about their setup this weekend. He said, they are one of those teams that feel like the repave really helped with their setup, Davey, and feel like that they could be pretty racy here this weekend.
Well, then I'm going to say that some teams that we maybe haven't seen consistently up front, this track is so different and so fast that we could see some new people up. For example, Ferrucci, that Foyt car, I think they're excited about being here. Stingray Robb, he ran here in Indy next, so that Foyt cap looks pretty strong. As you just mentioned, I think, some new car. How about Portier already in that 6th position? Arrow McLaren has had fast race cars here. If you recall, last year, a strategy kept Prado out of an opportunity for a win, and then so you got three of those cars that are excited to be here at Arrow McLaren.
Have an opportunity to we caught up with a couple of drivers before the session started, among them Michael Young, who caught up with Alexander Rossi.
With Alexander Rossi getting ready for a big weekend, former winner here. First off, before we talk about a lap around, you did so much driving in Europe, all over the world. Is there parts of this track that remind you of other tracks, or what does this course remind you of more so than any other place?
I think it's just one of the most iconic traditional road courses globally, right? I mean, it's got elements of like a Silverstone, a Spa, Watkins Glen, and it's in my top favorite tracks worldwide. So I think that's just, that speaks for itself how iconic this place is, and we're very lucky to have it in Wisconsin and America.
Talk us through a lap here, and I know it's 4 miles. If you could walk us through how you set up for each turn.
Sure. There's a lot of long straights here, so it starts off with a pretty long straight going into turn 1. Turn 1 is it's quicker than you think, considering it's a 3rd gear corner. So it's about a lot of entry speed, mostly because the run down to turn 3 isn't that long. So a lot of entry speed. You use kind of all of the exit curb there. Turn 3 is the exact opposite. It's all about the exit and getting good drive out of there. Easy to drop a wheel on the left side there, and then a big run down to turn 5. It's surprising again how late you can brake there, considering it's kind of V-max, but also it's downhill. So you brake at kind of the 250 from 180 miles an hour down to like 40 in 250 feet, which is pretty cool. And then the only bad part about this track is turn 6. So you go up the hill and you kind of turn in over this blind crest, so the rear of the car gets really light, and nothing that you can do really makes it better there. So it's kind of just surviving. And then the next ride is flat out, but barely, so it's pretty hard. You go down the hill into turn 8, I guess, and that one is surprising. You actually have to brake earlier than you would expect based on where you broke in turn 5. So it's kind of exposed there to wind, and it's a little bit of a challenge, and it's very hard to get the power down out of there going into the best corner on the track, which is the carousel. So it's pretty much flat in qualifying since the repave, and you're just gaining speed as you go through the corner. So it's very rare for a corner for you to actually be accelerating and go through the gears as it tightens up. And so it's just all about commitment there. A lot of fun. The kink isn't really a corner anymore. It can be on cold tires in the race, but usually it's just easy flat. And then you kind of try and keep the load out of the car as you go down to Canada Corner, just to try and be as straight as possible. Kind of a bumpy braking zone, and then it's important to get the exit because it's all uphill back to turn 14. So uphill through turn 13 is flat. 14 is another important corner to get a good exit, just because the speed carries all the way through the straight. So aside from turn 6, all amazing corners. A joy to drive around here. It's great to race, and a thrill to come back here every year.
Favorite corner?
Carousel.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Winner here in 2019, Alexander Rossi. As a matter of fact, Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, and Alex Palou have won twice in Road America. That's the most among active drivers. Other winners beside Rossi entered this weekend include Will Power and Felix Rosenquist. Alex Palou, winner 2 of the last 3 years. David.
Yeah, 2 of the last 3 years. Obviously, he loves this place as well. And as Alexander said, this is his favorite racetrack on the calendar. And, I think a lot of drivers are going to say that. It's just high commitment, really fast, really smooth. It seems like you could, set guys up, passing. Last week there was a lot of one-lane track. They don't have that here at all.
Well, and I think the thing about this place, and you heard Alexander Rossi references, you talked about it too as you're coming uphill off of turn number 14. There are some blind crests here, and that's an uneasy feeling when you're in the cockpit of a race car.
Yeah, it's never that much fun. We go to Barber, and it seems like every corner we go to, whether it's inter or exit, are blind. But yes, going that fast up the hill, just not being able to see what's happening up there. It's interesting. He said at turn 6, he really did a good job explaining turn 6. I never really, thought about how to explain that corner other than it's a left-hander, but he really got detail out of how difficult it is. The car wants to get loose there for whatever reason. It doesn't seem like that difficult of a corner, but you're going uphill and it flattens out really quick, and all of a sudden you're turning left, another blind corner going into that. Just a difficult corner, and he even said that was his worst corner on the track. Carousel being his favorite, and I think a lot of people agree with that as well.
Newgarden goes to P1. Colton Herta is second fastest. Palou, Award, and Lundgaard. By the way, we're looking at times around 143.381. Lundgaard, as we mentioned, is 5th. Rosenquist is 6th. 7th is Ray Hall. 8th is Rossi. 9th is Power. 10th is Marcus Ericsson. Ferrucci, 11th fastest. VK is 12th. Portier is 13th. Kirkwood is 14th. 15th is Armstrong. 16th Dixon. 17th Castro Neves. 18th Scott McLaughlin. 19th Linus Lundqvist. Rasmussen is 20th. Fittipaldi 21st. Kiffin Simpson 22nd. 23rd is Harvey. 24th is Dolan Siegel. 25th Stingray Robb. And 26th is Luca Giotto. I think, Davey, obviously a huge vote of confidence by Juncos Hollinger Racing to reach out to Nolan Siegel under difficult circumstances and put that kid in a race car. I think that speaks well for his talent and their confidence in him as a driver. Yeah,
right. No question about it. We're now got in the 145 bracket right off the bat. By the way, fastest is 143. He's only a couple seconds off and hasn't been here in the INDYCAR. He's doing a really good job right off the bat. The downside with it is he really needed teammate information around there as far as setup and where to look at the telemetry. And by the way, his teammate was the first one off of the wall, won't make any practice sessions during this round. So bummer for him on that side, because he really did need that information, but he'll be fine. He's going to go out there and fight for it and give it all it has, and there's no question about it.
Well, again, my favorite view, as I've mentioned before, is this in-car camera view we have. We're looking right over the top of Colton Herta's head. There's one of those blind crests of the hill coming up toward the start-finish line that you were talking about a few moments ago. But one of the things that I was watching, especially as he came through Canada Corner, is the fact that this place has a tendency, when you engage that steering input, that wheel has a tendency to want to fight you here a little bit.
It does fight you. I mean, like I say, it's very high commitment, as we talked about, and it's not that easy. And it's so fun, but like I say, you're on the edge. Remember last year, the issue between Scott Dixon and Will Power coming off of turn 13, where they got together and there was a bit of a controversy out of the car between the two of them. Got some excitement going. We didn't see it was a mistake on Scott's side, which we usually don't see. He apologized for it, but Will was already kind of going through a bad streak at that time and didn't really want to hear it. But they worked it all out, and obviously, but it can happen to anybody. And by the way, speaking of Grosjean, that he didn't even. There's not even a time lap. He didn't. He went right out and went right in the wall. So didn't have the tires warmed up obviously, and slid off track early on. So he won't even have a time. So back to his teammate Nolan Swift. Siegel. That he's got a bit of a challenge with no help.
Currently 24th fastest, though, is Nolan Siegel at a 1:45.810. Again, your top 10, Herta, Newgarden, Palou, Award, and Lundgaard. Dixon, Rosenqvist, Rahal, Rossi, and Ferrucci, the top 10. So Santino Ferrucci looks pretty racy out of the box again this weekend.
Yeah, I knew that they were excited about coming here. He loves this place as well. Their car has been pretty good here. I think that every racetrack they go to, they're getting a little faster, they're getting a little better. They had that alliance with Penske. I think that's helping a lot. Now, obviously, he about won the Indy 500 last year. Really wasn't in contention this year, so it doesn't help everywhere. But I do feel like on the road and streets, their program has definitely picked up.
And by the way, we should make mention, you talk about technical alliances, because again, of all the controversy surrounding the issues in Detroit last week with that Hunkos-Hollinger team, Arrow McLaren announced earlier this week that technical alliance has now ended.
And by the way, the incident was between those two teams and those two cars, so just another unfortunate situation, and that has ended. And a lot of things on the negative happened out of Detroit. There's no question about it, and I feel bad for everybody involved, but that's where social media and this is no place for threats. I mean, everybody's doing the best they can until you put that helmet on and you look out that eye hole and you see what they're having to see and what they're trying to do. Nobody's doing anything intentional on the bad side.
Watching Graham Rahal work around the course at speed. He's got his car pretty well hooked up. He's 8th quick.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, that's another team that really could use a win and some results. After Graham again is starting dead last in the Indy 500, not where they want to be on the ovals, and there's a lot of ovals coming up, but seems like their street road course, street and permanent road course setup seems to be better. Graham's laying it down, as you said, in that 8th position right now with a 1:44.1, about 3/4 of a second off the leader right now of Herta, Newgarden, Palou. They're right on top of each other in time, and then Pato O'Ward in 4th.
We have noticed in the past when they come off of turn number 14 and they clear the apex, there is that curbing to driver's left, and then there is a little bit of a pad that they put on the left side of that curbing, because I have seen clouds of smoke come up over the years when drivers get the dirt there to the left of that curbing. They've tried to extend it, but I think by the time we get to maybe Sunday morning in the warm-up session, they'll find out they haven't extended it nearly enough yet.
Yeah, what I like to see with these tracks on these courses like this is when they do curbings on the outside, it's never good just to end it with curbing because it gets ruts there and the guys go off just a little bit. But what I do like to see is that additional asphalt in case they really go over it. But to make it proper, you need to make the rumble strips very brutal, where it's definitely going to slow you down. Right. So if you use that, it's not an advantage; it's definitely a disadvantage. So I think that they're doing that here. I'll let you know exactly how rough those are. Again, it's been a while since I've been on track. I'll be on there tomorrow. As we do as driver analysts, I want to make sure everybody knows as much as they can about the racetrack. So I promise you, I'll hit every rumble strip and run off bad and see if it's good or bad.
Well, be careful doing that for sure.
Well, I got somebody riding with me, so I don't want to put them in bad jeopardy.
Scott Dixon, Will Power have competed in 11 previous races in Road America, most of any drivers. There are 14 drivers who have led laps at the track. Those for the most lap led include Joseph Newgarden at 149, then Rossi at 70, Power at 67, Pato at 43, Scott Dixon 43, and Colton Herta 33. This is an historic venue, Davey. I mean, 1985, I think the first time, 1982 actually. Hector Ribacki was the winner. Listen to this podium. Hector Ribacki, Al Unser, and Bobby Rahal were the top three in that race. Mario won here. Jacques Villeneuve won here. Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy. Jacques Villeneuve was a multiple winner here. Cristiano D'Amata, Bruno Junqueira. And boy, the list goes on and on and on. Alex Tagliani, A.J. Allmendinger. What a storied history this place has had.
How about Alex Tagliani, if I recall, his first win, and he had to run down the straightaway with nothing but a checkered flag on, if I recall. Almost was a streaker here in this one. So a first-time win for Tagliani. Did a good job, obviously. A lot of famous names been in victory lane here for sure.
So the second half of the season, we talked about the points championship. I think it's important for those chasing Scott Dixon to at least keep him within striking distance.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, he's a guy that he doesn't win every single championship, but he's won 7 of them, and so you better watch what he could do. And just try to keep in touch with him, because if he starts checking out and has a cushion at the end, pretty hard to beat him.
How tough is this place for a rookie to learn how to tackle?
That's a very good question. It's actually a fun racetrack. I think that you can be on pace fairly easily. I think the times are really close, even though it's a 4-mile course. But when you're in a brand new team and don't have a lot of laps, and we're talking about Siegel more than anything, I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge for him. But these other rookies, the same thing. I mean, I think times are going to be pretty close. And then you can get the most out of the car with a new pavement fairly easy. But to be in the game to win is going to be difficult.
Into this session, I think the last several minutes of it going to be very, very important for these teams, because they get the opportunity then. That's when most of them will use those alternates. And most are curious as to whether these alternates this year are going to fall off a little more rapidly than they have in years past. And that we expected a rapid fall off in Detroit last week, and they got that.
They got that. There's no question about it. And that's one, you're exactly right. They put them on today for their chance, but the first time they use them, they want to put them on for qualifying. But here's another question. It does show some rain tomorrow. Will they be qualifying on the alternate tire, or is it going to be the rain tire? Who knows? But tomorrow, or this afternoon, is when we're going to really see. Last year here, they put that alternate tire on and didn't really gain any speed. Some even lost speed on that alternate tire. So we'll see how it goes this week.
Stingray Rob, Jack Harvey among those caught violating the pit lane speed, so they will have to serve and drive through. Interesting to note how they stack that tire strategy, Davey. A little curious sometimes as to what the benefit is when you hear our pit reporters reference scuffed alternates or sticker alternates, because what I think the lap life between a scuff set and a new set is what, about 8 laps?
Yeah, sometimes not even that, Mark. It could be like as low as 4 or 5 laps. So not a lot. Just trying to. But I always like to think, on a good tire. Gary Bittenhausen told me this. Our friend Gary, Mark, that says no better tire than a brand new tire.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, when they're brand new, they're the fastest they're going to be. Now that's changed in some forms of racing, but I think that goes true for the IndyCar. When they're brand new, get a little heat in them, get your time out of them, because that's going to be the best they get. A heat cycle is always good for a tire to put like 5 or 6 laps on that qualifying, then let them cool back down. You got a good heat cycle. They kind of cured. That usually keeps a good tire throughout the race.
143.316 for Colton Herta, who's P1. Joseph Newgarden just a tick slower at 143.381. Then Palou, Award, and Dixon the top 5. Christian Lundgaard is 6th fastest. Rosenquist 7th. Graham Rahal is 8th. Alexander Rossi 9th. And Santino Ferrucci continues to pedal around here in 10th. Will Power 11th. Marcus Ericsson 12th. McLaughlin 13th. 14th is VK. 15th, Teo Porcher. Then Kirkwood, Fittipaldi, Armstrong, Lundquist, and Castroneves through 20th. Christian Rasmussen 21st. Simpson 22nd. Harvey 23rd. Giotto's 24th. Nolan Siegel is 25th, and Stingray Rob currently 26th fastest. Colton Herta, again, Davey, a promising day went away and evaporated, and again, goes into the month of May leading the championship, and is still very much within striking distance, but just needs a good, safe, solid weekend, and is hoping to get that here at Road America.
As a driver, we've seen Colton just how good he is, but we've seen in Long Beach, a dominant race car. He gets behind for whatever reason, pit strategy, or just ended up leading a lot of the race, and all of a sudden he comes out of the pits chasing somebody, made a mistake. He did the same thing in Nashville. He did the same thing again in Detroit. What that does, that just helps. Those mistakes help him be a better driver, knowing that you have to finish these races, knowing that sometimes. And by the way, let me just tell you, when you have a fast race car, it is easy to do. So I don't want to throw down on Colton, and I'm not. I mean, I think he's an outstanding race driver. You know that, and I loved working with Colton. But those things help you improve to be even that much better, because he's going to come into this weekend going, no matter where I'm at, no matter if I'm the dominant car or I'm chasing, I cannot make that mistake. I was in, I could have won that darn race. And by the way, it wasn't all his fault. I mean, it was the rain that caught him out. The rain situation caught him out, where they decided to pit, and they came for rain tires and didn't need him. He came out on slicks. When he went to make that pass on Palou, he got down in the wet and just had no chance.
He's now 69 points back, but one good weekend can very much put him back into contention. With 25 minutes remaining in the session, Colton Herta continues P1, Michael Young.
Yeah, we're with Josh Freund, who is actually standing in Colton Herta's pit box right now, the team manager for for Andretti Global. And you guys were in the pit box for an extended period of time. Walk the listener through what actually happens when you guys come in. There's someone that takes on the tire and runs a long mark on it. Then there's some spring changes. There's no sense of urgency, but there's a lot that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, a little of it depends on, how many tires we have for the weekend, right? I mean, we know that going into, you're waiting on the track to still come in, right? I mean, our rubber, we're still waiting on, it to get down the track to see what we need. And like you said, right, it's not always, oh my God, we got to be out there in 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is, right? So you got some time. You've planned this out. You try to plan it out weeks in advance, right? It's nothing that you're guessing at. So as far as that, you're going over data, you're seeing what the driver needs, and you're working on your game plan for the next session.
When you change a spring and a damper, is that a pre-plan that we're going to try this out, or do you guys see how the car is handling and then make a decision based on its handling capability?
Yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, right? The engineers and the guys behind you've got a game plan, for cars understeering here, or it's loose in different places, so you have a plan in place to how to attack each thing, and especially as multi-car teams do, right? You've got plans for different guys and what their strengths and weaknesses are going to be.
4 miles this track. Do you ever lose communication with Colton or any of your drivers when they get down, pass through the carousel, or are you in constant communication with them?
Yeah, I mean, most of the bigger teams, we try to use a repeater here just because it's so big. So communication's been good so far, and hopefully it stays that way for the rest of the weekend.
Let you get back to it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
It's Josh Freund, team manager for Andretti Global.
I would call that a big racetrack when teams have to use a repeater to be able to get that signal.
Well, and not just the size of the racetrack, but how far away it goes, because you can have a lot of miles going back and forth, like Barber. There's, everything's pretty close there. But with the elevation changes, being behind hills, and as far away as this racetrack goes, you definitely need a repeater. I know several times that there's no if you just have a regular radio, the communication on the back is nil.
Herta continues P1, Newgarden, Lundgaard, Palou, and Fittipaldi has pushed up to P5. Then O'Ward, Dixon, Rosenquist, Ray Hall, and Rossi. Ferrucci now, because of the late charge by Fittipaldi, has dropped back to 11th. Will Power is 12th, and Marcus Ericsson 13th, 14th McLaughlin, 15th VK. Porcher, Kirkwood, Armstrong, Lundquist, and Castroneves. Rasmussen, Simpson, Harvey, Kyoto, Siegel, and Robb through 26th. There are 27 cars entered, but an early incident involving Romain Grosjean, single car incident, means that he did not get to turn a single lap in this session, but he is okay. The crew's got a long night, though, Davey, to repair that race car because that front end was heavily damaged.
Yeah, we're right across from the Uncos Ollinger Racing team transporter, and we see that the team in there right now, they're working hard. Unfortunately, they will not get it fixed for this practice session, so you're right. They'll get it fixed tonight, go over everything, make sure it's perfect, give Grosjean another opportunity tomorrow. Puts him into a no-mistake situation where a lot of guys, this is important. I always say the first practice session is so important that they go out there, they get to feel the track. Oh, we just say, no, that was last year. We talked about last year's incident between Power and Dixon. I just showed it again where Dixon just did not see Power come and slammed into him. And boy, Power was, he definitely told him he was number one.
That's right, twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
And
double bumped the number one there.
It was definitely, it was on Dixon. There's no question about that. And he knows it was, and he knew it right off. And just didn't see him coming in that fast little area in turn 13. And that, fortunately, neither one of them got hurt. That was the most important thing. But showed that again. I thought, oh, that looked like last year too. Well, it was. So
saw an interview, kind of a recap of that thing with Will, and a flashback. I think the INDYCAR series put it out on social media, and Will, I think, was just just obviously so distraught over that incident, understandably so, because at the time he had, I think, pretty much a top 3, top 4 race car.
Yeah, he had number one, a really good race car. He did, and things weren't going quite his way coming into this either. He had some issues, including, just some finishes where he didn't feel like, I think Detroit was one of them where he felt like he had a one and got taken away from him, and so things, he had a little bad streak going, so he wanted that result, and then when that happened, it wasn't good.
Scott Dixon taking a long way around.
Yeah, Scott Dixon, that turn 13 that we continue to say how rough and how hard that is. Got off course there. You've seen that nose wing working like a scoop shovel or lawnmower through the grass, digging up some ground. Doesn't look like it hurt any, but Scott Dixon around P7, but definitely had an off-course excursion.
Got to give a lot of credit, too, to how tough the undertrays are on these race cars on a course like this.
Well, you look at the nose wing that's just hanging out there with no bracing on it, and then it's digging like a shovel in the ground and not breaking off. That just hats off to Delara and this carbon fiber technology and the way they build these things so strong. It's pretty amazing. And you do that in cars in the past, it rips nose wings off and bends things up, but it's amazing how strong, as you say, the underwings and these wings are.
With all the elevation changes in this racetrack and what happens to a car over a stint, just how active are you using the quote-unquote tools inside that cockpit throughout a run?
Well, that's back to you do use them, and no matter where you go, but that's one of the things that when your car is really good, you don't use your tools that much, but when the car's off just a little bit, you find yourself really busy with those tools. I think that this is one of those racetracks with such fast corners, high-speed corners, and then slow technical corners. That's something that's going to be changed multiple times per lap, especially with the cars that aren't set up so good. So that's one thing. The driver, they don't just drive. They have to make adjustments and know what those adjustments do as they're going around this course.
Yeah, we were talking a few minutes ago as we see Will Power taking the long way around the final turn and says, well,
for the second time, by the way.
Maybe I just better go to pit road. We talked about the fact that while there is an extension beyond the curbing to drivers left, we anticipate that the grass and the dirt is going to be kicked up plenty off.
Yeah, which it just did. That was the second time in a row that did that. Matter of fact, it's ironic they bring up Scott Dixon and Will Power getting together last year. Then the next thing happens, they both go off course on their own. But yeah, that definitely something to watch for with those runoff areas.
So you can keep an eye out now on the time and speeds with 18 minutes remaining in the session. Colton Herta right now, this is all on the primaries now, he is at 144.337.
Actually, 143.316.
Okay,
that's the last
143.316,
yeah.
And then a 143.381 for Newgarden. And then we go to Lundgaard, who's on the alternates, and he has done a 143.398.
That's right. So he is the first. Actually, Newgarden, is he on alternates as well? It doesn't show it there. Shows it on this monitor. So I think yours is the proper one. That maybe he's just now getting them put on and trying to come out right now.
So we're looking at just a handful of drivers on one of our monitors that have those alternates on, but we expect we expect everyone to put them on.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that and write those times down, Mark, because that's key. I think last year at this track was the one where I was surprised that the speeds just weren't going up when they put the alternates on. Obviously, Firestone does a great job with these tires. We say that week in, week out. It's going to be something a little bit different every time, and every time we come back to a racetrack. So we like to see those alternate tires go faster. We like to see them wear out more for tire deg and just puts that much more excitement into the race.
Most caution periods we've ever had here, and it's happened a handful of times where we've had 6 caution periods. Several times we've had just very few. We've had no caution periods
before, yeah.
Too many times to count, in fact. And so we'll talk more about the race strategy and how that figures into it. Let's find out more about those Firestone Firehawks with Michael Young.
So we're with Corey Williams. Remind me of the title again. I've already forgotten.
Principal Program.
That's right. I totally spaced it, so I appreciate you filling me back in. These tires, last year, the new racing surface to this year, is this the exact same tire that we had last year?
So the primary tires are the same construction and compounds that we utilized last year. And then also the alternates are the same construction, but we went back to a little bit of a softer alternate compound just to provide a little bit more grip as we see the track kind of wears in and over the years.
When does this decision, when was it made? Obviously, we were planning on the hybrid being already in. Did you guys change this like mid-season to bring this alternate tire in?
So last year with the repave, we had a focus on the repave and also the hybrid system as well. So that's where we trended to more durable for the primary and the alternate. But then at the end of last year, we're always crunching the data and the numbers and getting feedback from the teams as well. So as soon as the end of the race last year, we're analyzing and making what small tweaks that we can do that make sense for the alternate to be a little bit more softer as the track gets a little bit more weather and wear as well.
The challenge between year one, a new circuit, and then the second year after, you said you have weather. We had a winter here in Wisconsin. They're always brutal. What do you learn from the track, and how often do you check the differences in the track before you make any compound decision.
Yep. So our engineers will go out before each session, each weekend, and we do a track analysis. So that involves laser scans and friction testing. So we can kind of monitor as that track wears in over the years with weather and use as well. So that all feeds into just part of what we make in our design decisions.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's Corey Williams, and obviously a lot goes into the tire construction, and they are the very best here at Firestone.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And, I remember over the years listening to Victory Lane, and there's no question that drivers, Davey, will climb out of a cockpit. They'll thank their team. They'll thank their sponsors. They'll thank the fans, and they always thank their Firestone Fire Office.
Yeah, that absolutely. And, one thing that a driver, you take for granted sometimes just how good these cars are, how great the tires are, how they stick to the racetrack and the speeds we're going. Because I forget it, but when you get right in that two-seater, people go, how do those Firestone tires, how do they stick to the ground? How do we go to the corner that fast? And it's just amazing on what they have to do as far as engineering and to make sure they last complete stints. So they do an outstanding job. And it is amazing the pressure that these tires take every single lap around this track.
Well, one of the things that, again, an interview that I was privy to, our good friend Don Kay does a show in Central Indiana, and I was a guest on that show, but I had the privilege of listening to Mike Hull of Ganassi Racing, for those of you that don't know. And one of the things that Mike talks about, he said, people constantly talk about the grip and the performance of the alternates and the primaries. He said, I'm not sure that enough credit is given to Firestone for the strength of the sidewall that they put these tires.
Yeah, just a load that these cars take and how they even, it's just amazing that they have to be such a durable, strong tire, but then still have all that grip that they have when it comes to the corners. So Mike's right. I mean, like I say, sometimes we take it for granted because we get used to how good they really are, but then you think about what it really takes behind the scenes to make these tires so stable, so safe, and so competitive.
So Herta and Newgarden continue to set the pace on the primaries. Lundgaard is the first driver, third fastest on the alternates. Fittipaldi is a fifth fastest. He went out early and did that on those alternates, we should say. Let's see. Power, Ericsson also have them, Portier, and Kyle Kirkwood. So it'd be interesting to see in the last 12 minutes or so as Joseph Newgarden gets a little loose coming off that. Well, that's Scott McLaughlin gets a little loose coming off that final turn.
Yeah, it's hard to tell them apart sometimes. But he's still on that standard sidewall tire. The standard for McLaughlin went off in turn 14, which, like we talked about, seen a lot of drivers do that. And momentarily with, let me see, how much time do we have left here?
12:18.
Yeah, so I expect to see most everybody coming in and put those alternates. We see Siegel out there right now making those laps, finds himself in that 25th spot. He does have that alternate tire on as well for his first time. Doesn't have a time lapse on him yet, but they'll just, Newgarden now does have that alternate on. He stays in P2 right now with a time of 1:43.38, but I don't know if he's made a full lap on the alternates.
So again, just under 12 minutes remaining in this session, we talked about the race strategy and how it lays out, because it is a three-stop strategy. What it may boil down to, Davey, is simply of when you come on to pit road and the timing of it.
Yeah, that's very key, and this could turn into even a four-stop strategy. This is a long pit road. You lose a lot of time on it, but you could pit here and not go a lap down by a long way, so you can throw some different strategies into it, try some different things. We see one of the Ed Carpenter's guys, Rasmussen, going off course again down there in turn 14. That's the third or fourth time he's been off course, and you see it definitely doesn't speed you up. I mean, and then they're going over that rumble strips, onto that pad, onto the grass, and back onto the racetrack.
You think that pad should be extended almost the length of that rumble strip? Because as you just described it accurately, they're going over the rumble strips, then the pad, and then that pad runs out, and they have to go back over the rumble strips, and that's what really upsets the balance of the race car.
I would like to think what I see is bigger rumble strips and more pad, so where it's definitely still a disadvantage to go over that area. Say don't go over that because we're going to get loose, but it doesn't get them in the grass and the dirt, but it has to slow them down.
But maybe one of those situations, though, that if a couple of drivers bring it up, they may look at it and say, "Well, just stay off of it."
Yeah, right.
If you don't like it, stay off.
That's like telling us a lot of things. If we don't
that's
listen
right.
to.
Yeah, we talked about that too, and the frustration that some of the team principals felt over the mistakes that the most experienced of drivers made in Detroit last week. And bottom line is, and we've said before, everything's fine, everybody's in agreement, and all those intentions are good. Then they put the helmet on.
Yeah, that's right. When that helmet goes on, we have this like a little toggle switch that pulls down in our brain that it clicks it to. We forgot everything everybody told us. It's just like, let's go win, let's do what it has to take. And sometimes you throw caution to the wind and it doesn't work out. But I should say that bad. All these drivers, it's when you put that helmet on and you're looking through that eye port, it's such a different thing than just looking as we do on monitors or from the outside looking in. It's not that easy. And one thing that we don't feel is the G-forces and the speed and everything that they're going through and the handling of the race car. And so they do a great job. They're professionals for a reason. They're all here for a reason, and it's just not that easy.
Michael Young.
Yeah, just a quick update. We just saw Felix Rosenqvist head out on those Firestone alternate tires, and Luca Giotto sits on pit lane getting set to go out on those as well. So some of the remaining cars that have yet to be on those alternates are heading out now.
Yeah, with about 9 minutes remaining in this session, Davey, a couple of drivers that, again, starting to find a little bit of pace and a little bit of level of comfort. I think you got to give it to both Kyle Kirkwood for a very consistent season to this point. And then again, we documented it. Marcus Ericsson, he said Detroit was the reset button for him. It didn't start out necessarily the best for him, as you recall, in practice on Friday, but what a strong rebound for Marcus Ericsson with a podium finish.
Really good podium. Needed that for sure. How about Giotto, a rookie in that Del Coyne car in that 10th position in speed right now? And I think when we see Fittipaldi up there, Giotto, these guys, they come from those European. A lot of this is more like a European track, a little faster, more of a flow to it than some of our American tracks. So I think that they feel good. Sixth, Giotto would like say in 10th position right now. I just feel Porcher in that 14th spot. Not a lot of laps for these guys around here, but I think they're comfortable because that's the kind of race track they're used to.
8 minutes, 15 seconds remaining in this session. Want to give you an idea what a busy day we have in store for you tomorrow, bright and early tomorrow morning. You can join us at 8:50 local time, 9:50 Eastern, for the second Indy Next practice session. And then we'll have the second IndyCar practice session at 10 o'clock local time, 11 o'clock Eastern. And then Indy Next qualifying at 1:20 local time, 2:20 Eastern. And then that incredible qualifying formula. If you've not seen it, you need to be here. You need to join us at 2:15 Eastern, or 2:15 local time, 3:15 Eastern, IndyCar qualifying. And Davey, that knockout qualifying format, as we've said, it used to be everybody was simply happy getting into the round of 12, but that's not the case anymore.
No, 12's great. It is great, but they want to be in the Fast Six, and that's pretty special. I think Scott Dixon, for the 100th time, made it in the Fast Six last week in Detroit.
That's right.
Tells you how important it is. He stacks up wins, and you want to be up there. Your opportunity. You don't always win from the front 3 rows, but it's always a better chance to win from the front 3 rows.
Well, yet another driver having an issue off of that
final turn. It's like Pato Award. Yeah, Pato getting off down there in turn 14. So he is. Matter of fact, it'd probably be easier if we went down through who hasn't gone off in turn 14 somewhat, and because they've all been finding the limits for sure.
7 minutes remaining in this session, as he was pretty lucky that he didn't bury that thing in the gravel down there.
Well, the one thing, when he went off, he had a lot of speed, and a lot of speed took him off, as we see. That was early on. We've seen Rasmussen. He's been off several times. We see Grosjean has shown his head going off there. Power's been off there. We see Kirkwood hasn't had a good run, really, until just here briefly. Newgarden sits, actually, how about Ferrucci shuts up to P2 behind Colton Herta right now. Newgarden's been off. Like I say, it's easier to say who hasn't been off than who's been on.
Well, and our indicator is a wash in red, indicating that, again, these are qualifying sims. And, there were a lot of complaints last week about the fact that some qualifying sims were ruined and, that things, guys got in each other's way. It shouldn't be an issue this week.
Shouldn't be an issue. If it is, you can't really blame it on anybody but yourself, because there's plenty of room to get space. And let's go back to Ferrucci real quick. P2 right now, just barely off of Colton Herta, in between him and Newgarden. I remember that's that Penske Alliance right now, faster than the Penske cars. We also remember last week between Ferrucci, Herta, and Kirkwood, things didn't go too good. They weren't too friendly with each other, and it was kind of 2-on-1 there. And I won't comment on anymore on what I feel is right or wrong there, but hopefully they have it all worked out, because right now they're just about the same in speed.
Yeah, heard of Ferrucci, as he mentioned, Newgarden, Lundgaard, and Pillow through 5th, and Will Power, Fittipaldi, Award, Kirkwood. Then Scott Dixon is 10th fastest. Luca Giotto is pedaled it up to 11th quickest. Felix Rosenquist 12th. Rinus VeeKay 13th. Ray Hall 14th. Rossi 15th. Teo Porcher is 16th. Marcus Ericsson 17th. McLaughlin 18th. 19th is Armstrong. 20th Lundquist. 21st is Rasmussen. 22nd Elio Castroneves. 23rd is Nolan Siegel. 24th Kiffin Simpson. 25th Harvey. 26th is Robb. And again, an early session incident involving Roman Grosjean. He did not complete a lap here, and so there are 27 cars entered, and we just got a shot on our video monitor of the crew. Again, Davey, they're in for a long night making repairs to that race
they
car.
got that car. They're still coming apart, looking at every little thing to make sure it's perfect. When you know you can't make this practice session, the next one's not till tomorrow, don't rush it. You're not hurrying. Just make sure everything gets fixed properly to give him an opportunity tomorrow to get back on track.
All in all, a pretty successful session, knockwood, for Nolan Siegel. I just found out, a little over an hour ago that this was even going to be an opportunity for him to run that 78 car for Hukos Hollinger, and he's stuck it around 23rd, 24th most of the session.
Yeah, 24th, only a couple guys off pace from him. So, I mean, he's beating some guys. That's good. I mean, he's not on the bottom of the chart. A couple guys below him, right behind Simpson, who's been doing this all year long. So, and Castroneves, 4-time Indy 500 winners in 20 seconds. So he's not far off the pace at all.
So now, what is the benefit for him in a weekend like this to, he's in Indy next, obviously, and then he's going to be in the IndyCar this weekend. So what's the benefit for him moving forward?
Well, I think it's just the experience. It's obviously every time and every lap you make in one of these Indy cars, it's something to look forward to. It's something that these owners can look at, say, hey, what a great job he did. He does have talent. We want him here. And by the way, the most important thing is sponsorship. That's what it takes. It takes money to make these cars go around, and maybe that helps him find some funding to put him in a more of a full-time situation for next year.
Well, I thought he handled a very difficult situation with a lot of class and integrity, when he didn't make the Indianapolis 500. And I just, nothing is, we've seen, guys with can't miss tags on them. And I don't know that I want to put that kind of pressure on him. But there's no question, Davey, the kid's got an awful lot of talent.
Yeah, no question. And he's shown it. He's young. Has a lot to learn. You never know how it works out as he moves into the bigger cars. Everybody feels like, hey, he's a guy that's going to be around a long time, get a lot of wins. But you know what? Sometimes that opportunity doesn't come. He's doing all he can to make that be reality. But sometimes their opportunities just don't come to be in really good cars with good teams. As Pillow shoots to the top with a 143.17. Colton Herta did pick up some time. Not much. He had a 143.31, and now it's a 143.25. Second position, still on track right now, so it's still opportunity to shoot to P1. But Ferrucci he's out of his car right now with a huge smile on his face in that P3 spot.
Interesting to note the laps turned and how big some of those numbers were last week at Davey in Detroit, because it was 1.6 miles in length. And we look up here, and I think Fittipaldi has completed the most, 27 laps. And we have a handful in the low 20s, but most of them are in the mid to upper teens.
Yeah, you don't get a lot. That's right. You don't get a lot of laps here just because of the size of the track. We continue to talk about that with just under 2 minutes left in this session. A lot of drivers out of their cars already. We do obviously have still some on track, including Colton Herta, Power, Armstrong, Fittipaldi, Dixon. They're just trying to get as many laps as they can in the short amount of time. As we see Colton Herta come to a stop, I'm not sure. He's taking back off right now. I'm not sure. He's just going through turns. Be trying to get a good lap in, try to find some free space right now, but he came to a complete stop coming off of turn 7.
Yeah, he's found some clears. Racetrack, although it looks like he's slowing a little bit again. Might be an issue with that car. We'll keep an eye on it while we check in with Michael.
Santino Ferrucci out of the car, happy, fast. That's always a good thing, especially when you're on a 4-mile track like this Road America course.
Yeah, man, I love this place. I think this track is so sick, especially after the repave. But no, I'm really proud of our crew. We've been working really hard. We were competitive here last year. We made the Fast 12. we didn't have our race fall the way that we wanted to. We're also on 4 top 10s and 6 races this year. We'd like to be fighting for top 5s and wins, and if we continue on this trend this weekend, hopefully we have the opportunity to do that.
Look at Barber. We look at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway last week in Detroit. Quick here. Is it the driver? Is it the team? What has changed with this organization?
You know, I think it's everything. If you look at our engineering staff, you look at our team personnel, you know, Larry's done an incredible job bringing this team together. Just very thankful to be here and that he's hired me to drive the car again. And it's pretty cool. He's let me be me and true to myself. So it's nice now that results are rolling in for us consistently. You know, we deserve this as an organization, and it only gets better.
Certainly do. Well done. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Santino Ferrucci.
Yep, good job, Santino Ferrucci, as the checkered flag flies on the session, and now the red flag flies as well, as it was a Marcus Armstrong in that Ridgeline number 11 machine that had it off, Davey.
Yeah, it sure was. And that last lap, when we seen Colton Hurd slow on the racetrack, he was just trying to find some open ground to make sure that he got a really good lap in. He found it. He saw he was going to make his per se fast lap, go for a qualifying lap, but unfortunately now the red flags come in. He's going to have to slow down, so it's going to end with Pelot on top.
And the guy that's won here 2 out of the last 3 years is P1, Dave.
Yeah, P1, but like I say, both guys on first and second have won here before. How about Ferrucci, though? He's talk about excitement. Matter of fact, the 4th place guys won here before, and Lundgaard didn't Lundgaard win here? Yeah, Lundgaard did. So top 5, only one of the top 5 have not won here, and that's Ferrucci.
Pelot, Herta, Ferrucci, Newgard, Lundgaard, the top 5. Dixon, Power, McLaughlin, awarded Armstrong the top 10. Fittipaldi 11th, Rosenquist 12th, Rasmussen 13th. 14th, Kirkwood, 15th, VK, 16th, Rossi, 17th, Rahal, Luca Giotto, 18th, 19th, Portier, 20th, Erickson, 21st, Simpson, 22nd, Castro Neves, 23rd, Lundquist. Nova Siegel, 24th, Stingray Rob, 25th, Jack Harvey, 26th, 27 cars entered. Roman Grosjean with an early session incident, badly damaged that race car. He is okay, did not turn a lap. So again, join us tomorrow. Going to be a busy day. 9 a.m. local time, 10 a.m. Eastern. Indy next practice session number 2. And then we'll get INDYCAR practice session number 2 underway about 10:10 local time, 11:10 Eastern. And then Indy next qualifying, INDYCAR qualifying a little bit later on in the day. The director of INDYCAR Radio is Chris Pollock. On-site engineering and production courtesy of Rick Evans. Great job by Michael Young on pit road. For Nick Yeoman, Davey Hamilton, this is Mark James. So long.
Thank you to Indy Radio. Marcus Armstrong went off at the final corner, which is why we are on the full screen camera with that one, seeing if he gets out under his own steam or needs the AMR safety team as well. I believe he might have got out on his own steam. Having a look at the timing screen now, and he's still signified as out on track. So we'll have to see what happens here at turn 14. It's again off to the left-hand side where the camera doesn't reach. But, oops, there we go. As, yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. But you can join us throughout this weekend. We are trackside for the British Touring Cars at Thruxton tomorrow. Myself, trackside, hopefully seeing 2/3 of the track with my 54 times logical zoom camcorder, bringing you trackside views live from the fastest race circuit in the UK. That'll be tomorrow on the channel. 9:40 is free practice 1, free practice 2, 12:05, and then qualifying 3:25. That's all in British summertime. But for INDYCAR, practice 2, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Then qualifying 8:15 tomorrow until 9:45. That clashes with Formula 1 qualifying for Canada as well. Right now on the channel is Formula 1 Canadian Grand Prix Practice 2, which you will be redirected to momentarily after this broadcast ends. So it's Pelot on top in the number 10 car, Herta, Ferrucci, Newgard and Lundgaard. The top 5, Dixon, Power, McLaughlin, O'Ward, Armstrong, top 10. 11th is Fittipaldi, Rosenqvist, Kirkwood, VK, Rossi. Then it's Rahal, Giotto, Porcher, Ericsson, Simpson, Castaneres, Lundqvist, Rasmussen, Stingray Rob, Jack Harvey, Nolan Siegel, and Roman Grosjean, who crashed early on in the session, not turning one lap at all. I've been Josh T. Your commentary team for this broadcast has been the guys over at INDYCAR Radio. You'll be redirected to practice 2 for Formula 1 Canadian Grand Prix.